I'm Teresa Coraggio, and this is Third Paradigm. I feel like with today's topic, I should be filming outside with the birds and the bees, which are plentiful because it is a glorious day, as you can tell by my aura of white light, my halo, my crown. I'm going to be talking about the Hieros Gamos, except I'll be doing a different take on it thanks to Mary McLaughlin. When I was telling her about all the conflict that I've been going through with this male-female issue, she said, "You're the queen of the third paradigm. Come up with something different." And so in this, what I'm looking at is the Horus Gamos. That sun is too bright. We need an eclipse, which we'll be talking about later. What is the Hieros Gamos to start? This is the sexual union between the god, which is generally represented by the god king, and the goddess represented by the high priestess. Now, I have problems with that word Hieros, which includes heir, which is like hierarchy, which is the inheritance orders of the archons. It always means the one who rules over. And that's also used in words like hierophant, where it is an appeal to authority. You're trusting in a sacred authority to make decisions for you. The one exception I make to that rule is that I just ordered this lovely little metallic glasses case from Etsy, and it came with a little card on Tiny Air Mox, which is the company, and it has this adorable little girl with buns that look like mouse ears. So if we have tiny airs like that, then I could be okay with it. Now let's look at a different interpretation of sacred marriage or sacred union. We've been talking about the Egyptian mythology of Isis and Osiris. And Osiris is dismembered by Set. Set, which is also spelled Seth, or the heir in the Bible from Adam. And then Isis remembers him, and with him conceives Horus, who is the sun god, who is the rebirth of the sun from which horizon comes. We've been playing around with a lot of words and transpositions of letters. If you take Osiris and flip the letters, it becomes or Isis. So then it is Isis remembering, put back together, or Isis. They're both Isis. They are both the feminine, both forms of the feminine and the goddess to God. So if we look at Isis as the one who defeats the dismembering done by Set. Set is, I believe, the toxic masculinity. Set represents the powers of destruction, of dominance, of one heir to rule over all. And what Isis does is bring that back together. And if we look at Horus, it also becomes or us. So it is us all put together. I think this relates to what I talked about with the book by Andrew Power in Ireland, Land of the Pharaohs. Something he talked about was the original people, maybe Atlanteans, whatever we want to call them, who were in touch with both sides of the brain, where there was no separation, no corpus callosum, so that you were trading things between the symbolic and between the intuitive connection to God, that what they had perhaps was one unified brain in which the direct connection to God was right there, that it was all the feminine right side of the brain and not the symbolic, linear, rational, logical side of the brain. And so everything was intuitive and one union. Eclipse. In Down the Wombat Hole, Isaac Middle has a really fun video called The Eclipse of the Orange Moonchild, in which he traces the astrology charts of Donald Trump And this includes great dancey music and a video montage of memes done by Visceral Adventures with Tonica. It is really fun, and it is linked in the Substack. One of the clips he has in there is a woman who's talking about how the eclipse is really the 2D union, the sacred marriage of the sun god, Ra, and the moon, the feminine. And as one of my friends pointed out, the feminine is in front, is on top, is covering, is swallowing the sun and releasing the sun moments later. What does this mean to our Horus Gamos? There's a poem I include on Substack that says, I stood out in the open cold to see the essence of the eclipse, which was its perfect darkness. I stood in the cold on the porch and could not think of anything so perfect as man's hope of light in the face of darkness. That's Richard Eberhardt. So I think it's significant that he uses the term man's hope of light for just having the moon taking predominance for a mere 4 minutes. Another eclipse video recommended by the Cormorant is Eric Francis Coppolino, and he had me before he even mentioned A Course in Miracles. He's talking about how we have been in this millennia of no, and that we are moving into the house of yes, and that people don't really know what their no is and what their yes is, and that we need practice at that. We need to mean it when we say either, that we will never be able to really say yes until we know how to say no and know what it is we want. I've been practicing this on little things, just like what do I want to eat? Not what needs to be used up in the fridge. What is it that somebody else might want? I just say, what is it that I want right at this moment? And being able to do that with all kinds of things and just get in touch with where's your yes, I think is so important going forward. What is the house of no where we have been living for millennia? This is toxic masculinity. And if you are a man who doesn't believe in the existence of toxic masculinity, I have to say, look in the mirror. And that's not to say that all men are toxic. That's to say that if you don't know the difference between toxic and tonic masculinity, it's because you are relating to the former. If you don't see domination and superiority and aggression, not violence, because violence is a means to an end. Violence can be used to protect, or it can be used to dominate. But this is the paradigm that we have been in. And I think we need to speak clearly about that, because I've recognized if you're talking to a man who believes that women are trying to dominate him, there is no winning, because he's always going to see things within that domination paradigm. And so he's going to see you winning as you trying to dominate him. So if you're trying to get to an answer or have a clear communication and explain something and find a new way, he's still going to see you as either trying to enslave him or as someone who's saying, oh, we don't need you. We don't need men. There isn't any way to go that isn't going to be offensive once you're in that domination paradigm. Women, of course, can be toxically masculine, but when they are in that place of domination, they are representing the destructive masculine. They are not speaking from a feminine place. When women speak to other people as equals, what we generally say is things like, I feel, I think, I suspect, I tend towards. I don't even say anymore, I'm trying to break the habit of saying, I believe, because to believe is to make up your mind about something ahead of the facts or your experience. So I more say I'm tending towards this. When you're talking down to someone, what you say is, you're wrong. It's this way. You talk about things authoritatively as if you know and they don't. It's not one opinion versus another. You're not looking towards an answer. You're just saying things like, I challenge you to. That is you as a boss trying to bully someone into something. That's not challenging their ideas by using your ideas. What the cult of Set, the Patrix, the false masculine, has done is dismember or Isis or Osiris. This means that it has been turned inside out, that love has been turned into hate. More importantly, hate has been turned into love. We talk about love-hate relationships. There is no opposite to love. What that really means is the combination of possession that turns into anger when it doesn't get what it wants, or it's the superiority that then turns into violence. Flirting and the sextrovert. How do we get back to that house of yes? I think flirting is a great place to start. One of my favorite farmers market flirts once demonstrated the difference between being appreciative and inappropriate. He came up and gave me a compliment and walked off before I could say anything. And then he walked up, gave the same compliment, and waited. There is no reciprocity in flirting. Flirting is a one-way street. It is something that men do that make women feel good about themselves. And at its best, it should be completely indiscriminate because it's not grasping. It's not a bargain. It's not giving something in order to get. I've been listening more to Z, the woo-woo woman who does womb wealth at Earthstar Academy, and she is so fun. What she's talking about in the video that I have linked on Substack is that life is pleasure by design, by divine design, that our pleasure centers, our sex organs are in our root chakra, not our sacral chakra, and that we are made to feel joy, that's how we connect in the 3D world. And a woman who is grounded in her sexuality, she refers to as the white tigress. But in order to have that grounding, you need to be connected to your inner masculine. The inner feminine is what says, oh, I want to do this. I want to make this happen. I think this would be a great vision. And the inner masculine says, let's make that happen. So you need to embody both, not incorporate, because that's one of those trick words that has corporation in it. You need to embody both the masculine and the inner feminine. Those both have to be something that you're capable of, that you're competent, that you know how to do things. So when I first thought about doing a YouTube video, I whined for maybe a full year about why doesn't someone come out of the woodwork and help me do this and teach me how to do this? I just don't know how to do this. And finally, my dance teacher said, you figured out a lot of other hard things in your life. You can do this. And I am so glad that she bullied me into doing that because it's so much better that I figured out how to do all this myself and didn't become dependent on the idea that someone else needed to teach me. So I think we need to be embodying both those sides in order to come into our own power. Z also talks about how the princess mentality is all about me, that it is an entitlement of I deserve, I need, I want, but it's not for anyone else. The queen, the inner queen, is always in service. And that's where it is looking at how can I get the resources and get the things that I need in order to be of service. And the masculine is in service to that feminine. That is not about them. That is about them giving. So women, if there's a guy who is not in service to the feminine, don't have sex with him. This advice will save you years of grief and a lot of bad sex. Grace and Frankie's Night of Yes. Grace and Frankie is my favorite series, followed soon after by Schitt's Creek. In one episode, Lily Tomlin challenges Jane Fonda to have a night where she only says yes. And so she ends up dressing her, and then they end up going out to a biker bar, and I think eventually they are dancing on top of the bar. There is a lot of different things that make it so that they recognize each other, and it's a turning point in their relationship where they come to see things from the other person's point of view. It's a really fun episode. But that idea of just saying yes, I did that when I was a hospice volunteer, where I was the fill-in for when other people couldn't be there or there was an emergency or they needed someone right away. And I decided that I was just going to say yes, unless there was a reason I couldn't. And that put me in situations that I would have probably pushed back against had I not made that decision. So yes goes through all kinds of situations. And then I'll talk about the drug of yes. During the pandemic, I became known as the queen of the Micro Rave. This is a small group of people. And the rave drug is not ecstasy, which is mixed. It is actually the drug that was developed for marriage counseling, which is sometimes MDMA or Molly. And that is actually not really, I think, a sex drug. It's one about appreciation. It's one of feeling comfortable in your own body. And that doesn't mean getting naked. It just means having deep conversations and being able to dance. I think that there's a connection that does that bypasses that rational, logical brain of no, that brain that keeps that separation and judges other people. What I've seen are people come to this place of forgiveness and love. It really is about love. Kathleen Devaney has a great post that I'll list in the Substack, and it details all the things that are going wrong, especially around the eclipse and all the fear around that. And then she ends by saying, but this is a great time to be alive because love is bigger. There is a reason that we have chosen to incarnate in these bodies at this time, in this place, because love is bigger. And I want to tell you that I love you, not just in the abstract, but in the very specific, because we're going to put this back together, ourself back together, and you are the most essential part of that. And for more on sex and relationships, here is The Lust Frontier, Online Dating and the Great Isolation, and this is Quantum Sex and Dragon Chakras. Thank you for watching.